Hello everyone, I am Shanice Hartin Al Anat,
And I am Hannah Giselle Gilipante.
and we will be discussing the section 1.7 of chapter 2, which is the rules. In this section, we're introduced to a kind of rule that explains how sentences can be built. Specifically, it looks like this. This rule tells us that a sentence can be made up of words or even other smaller sentences. Now, this rule is not the most accurate rule out there, but it serves a bigger purpose. It gives us a general idea on how a sentence can be made up of constituents. These kind of rules help describe what we call the mother daughter relationships. We're just going to have a quick recall. In a sentence structure, just like this, the cat is cute. We have a larger unit, which is the mother. Now, this larger unit have smaller units, or the daughters. These relationships are what we represent in tree diagrams where larger parts break down into smaller and smaller ones. Now that we've covered what this grammatical rule is, I'll pass it on to Hannah, who will now explain how rewrite rules work and give an example of how we build sentence structures using them.
So first, what is the rewrite rule? So it basically describes how to draw a tree diagram by rewriting the symbols on the left of the arrow for the symbols on the right. So for example, we start with the sentence symbol like S, and then we rewrite it as DP and VP, which means the sentence has a determiner phrase and a verb phrase. These rules describe how sentences and phrases break down into smaller parts. Now let's look at the sentence. The postwoman pestered the doctor on his birthday. So we can see below the tree diagram of this sentence. Rewrite rules help us draw tree diagrams by showing what comes under each part of a sentence. They are like step-by-step guides to show how sentences are built. So in short, rewrite rules tells us how phrases are broken down and how each word fits in the sentence. From the structure in diagram, it is possible to formulate the following rules. First is the sentence contains determiner phrase and verb phrase. Second is verb phrase contains verb, determiner phrase, and prepositional phrase. Third is that prepositional phrase contains preposition and determiner phrase. And lastly, determiner phrase contains determiner and noun. Let's start at the top of the tree diagram. We have the S to DP and VP. This tells us that the entire sentence is made up of determiner phrase and a verb phrase. So the postwoman here is the determiner phrase or the subject of the sentence, while the pestered the doctor on his birthday is the verb phrase because it is the action or what the postwoman did. But that doesn't end yet. Let's now examine the VP to V, DP, and PP. So the symbol VP stands for the verb phrase, and it breaks down into first the verb, which is the pestered, and the phrase the doctor is the determiner phrase since it is the object receiving the action. And on his birthday is the prepositional phrase because it tells us when the action happened. Let's now move on to what makes up the prepositional phrase. So first, it is made up of preposition on, and his birthday as the determiner phrase because it is what the preposition is referring to. Now let's zoom in one last time on the structure of determiner phrase. So the determiner phrase contains determiner and noun. So the determiner in this phrase is the word his and the noun is the birthday. So by following these rules, we can build the full structure of the sentence step by step.
Now, picking up from what Hannah explained, let's take a closer look at the limitations of these rewrite rules. The rules in her example did a good job of describing the structure of some English sentences. But here's the problem. English is way more complex than those rules suggest. For example, the rule for a determiner phrase, as what Hannah stated earlier, contains a determiner and a noun. So something like the cat fits perfectly. But what about phrases like this, which is just a determiner, no noun, or rusty kettle, which has a determiner, an adjective, and a noun. And that diagnosis says she had flu. which basically includes an entire embedded sentence inside a DP. These examples show that we would need a huge number of rewrite rules to fully capture every possible sentence structure. However, this fact does not invalidate the use of rewrite rules for describing language. That ends my part. Without further ado, I'll now pass it again to Hannah.
To sum it all up, we've seen how rewrite rules help break down sentence structure and guide us in understanding grammar step by step. While they are effective for many sentences, they are not enough to capture the full complexity of English, especially with how flexible sentence and phrases can be. Sure, we can keep on adding more and more rules, but that leads to a bigger question. If grammar is that complex, how children could even learn their grammatical system? Because of this, some linguists believe that we need simpler, more efficient systems, something that's easier to learn and fits better with how human mind works. So that's all for the rewrite rules. Thank you for listening.